The Premier League season starts tomorrow. Man City are going to be taking on Burnley, and I cannot wait for the season to start, man. I'm so excited. So today I had to come at y'all with my 2023-2024 Premier League table predictions. So let's go ahead and hop right in. But before we get started, though, I would like to say that I am fairly new to the sport. I just started watching in like January, December-ish, around the end of the World Cup, really. So, yeah, my ball knowledge may be a little bit limited, but I am fairly confident in my research that I've done. I've looked into a lot of things, and I feel like I'm going to be able to put together a pretty good predictions here. So let's go ahead and kick it off with the team that I think will be finishing last in this Premier League season. And unfortunately, man, as much as I don't want to do it, I think I'm going to have to. It's going to have to be Luton Town. I just don't think the quality is there. I don't see how they're going to go in and pick up dubs against teams like Man United, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal. It's just going to be really, really tough for them this year. I just don't think the quality's there. So I think they will get relegated this season, and maybe there they can go down to the championship and rebuild a few years. And I think we will see Luton Town in the Prem again in the near future. Taking a look at their signings here, you can see that they haven't made any huge ones. I do like Ryan Giles, though. They made a few decent signings, but I just don't think it's going to be enough to compete in the Premier League this season. And that is why I have Luton Town finishing last. All love to Luton Town, though. Next up at 19th, I have decided to go with Sheffield United. And again, it's kind of the same thing with Luton Town. I just don't think the quality is there. I don't think they're going to be good enough to compete with the likes of the top teams in the Prem. And, yeah, I think it's just going to be a tough season for them. And taking a look at their signings here, they haven't really done anything. They did sign Vinny Souza, who I do like, but other than that, they haven't really done a whole lot. Not a huge fan of the players they brought in. I just don't think they've done enough, and I don't think it's going to be enough to keep them alive in the world's best league. I have them going back down to the championship next year. Well, next up, we got 18th, and this may be a little bit controversial, but I have a very good feeling about this one, and I have decided to go with Wolverhampton Wolves, or Wanderers, whatever you want to call them. I have them getting relegated this season, which may surprise some of you, may not, but they just lost their manager. They just lost Ruben Neves, and they just haven't really done anything to replace Ruben Neves. My bad there. As you guys can see, they did bring in Matías Cunha from Atletico Madrid for $50 million. He was their big signing this year, but they had him last year, and they still had one of the worst attacks in the league, and they're just losing a lot more than they're gaining. They also lost Nathan Collins. I forgot about that as well. And again, they just haven't really replaced him. And yeah, I think it's going to be a really, really tough season for Wolves. I think they're going to struggle, man. They had one of the worst attacks in the league last year. They haven't improved that, and they just lost a key center back and your best player in Ruben Neves, as well as your manager. It's going to be tough for Wolves. That's why I have them finishing at 18th. Moving on to 17th now, I'm going to have to go Everton. I believe Everton have finished 17th 2 years in a row, just barely surviving in the Premier League. And I think they're going to do it again. If you take a look at Everton's signings here, they just really haven't done a whole lot to improve their team. I mean, yeah, taking a look, you guys can see they've done absolutely nothing. I don't mind Dan Juma, but that's just a loan deal, and oh God, I don't know what is going on with Everton, man. They sold Moise Kean to Juventus for $30 million, and again, they just haven't brought in anybody. So I don't know what's going on at Everton, but it's not good, and that's why they're getting the same results every season, barely surviving in the Premier League. And that's why I have them at 17th. Next up, this one is going to be very controversial. You guys are going to hate me, and I would like to apologize for this right now, but I will get into it and I will explain. At 16th, I have West Ham United. And you guys are going to hate me for this one, I know, but let me explain here. Obviously, West Ham this offseason lost their manager. They're going to be losing Declan Rice and as well as Lucas Paqueta to Man City, it looks like. They also lost Gianluca Samaka to Atalanta. They lost Vlasic. And look at what they've got. They got Edson Alvarez. I heard they're going to be bringing in JWP, James Ward-Prowse, and I think they're going after Harry Maguire as well, which I don't understand that one. I think that's a bad signing. But yeah, as you guys can see, they're losing so much, and I'm just not really a huge fan of what they're doing right now to replace these players. But I do think that it was a good move for them selling Rice and Paqueta for $200 million. I think that was the best thing they could have done as a club, but it's going to take time. They're going to have to invest, and it's going to take time to build chemistry and all that. So I think it's going to be a bit of a rebuilding year for West Ham. Like I said, they lost their manager, their two best players, and they're going to have to deal with the Europa League. I think it's going to be a tough rebuilding year for West Ham, but I do think they are headed in the right direction. So next up, we got 15th, and I have decided to go with Burnley here. Just promoted from the championship. They actually won the championship, finished with over 100 points. I believe it was 101. Vincent Kompany, man, I cannot say enough good things about him. He is a phenomenal manager, and he is the reason why that Burnley squad did so well last year. And I think his managerial presence is going to lead to more good things for Burnley in the Premier League this season. Taking a look at their signings here, they haven't done a whole lot. They did sign Amdu. I'm not going to say that name. I don't know how to pronounce it, and I don't want to butcher it. But they did sign this kid from the Swiss Super League for $18 million. And they also got James Trafford, who I'm a big fan of, from Man City for $17 million. I really rate that signing. I really like Jordan Bayer, but he was there on loan last year. They picked up Sander Berge from Sheffield United. That's not a bad pickup. I mean, they're making moves out here. You can definitely see that they're making moves. They sent off Wout Weghorst to TSG Hoffenheim on loan. But yeah, as you guys can see, they're just improving the squad. They're not getting worse. They're only going to get better. And I think Vincent Kompany is going to do really well in the Premier League. And I think Burnley are going to finish 15th next year, which is a very respectable place for your first year in the Premier League. Next up, we got 14th. And for this one, I have decided to go with the Cherries, AFC Bournemouth. Bournemouth finished the season very strong last year. If you take a look here, Bournemouth, oh shit, I was wrong. Bournemouth did not finish the season well last year. They actually ended on 4 straight losses, but I do know at the end of the second half, they did start to do better. Taking a look here at Bournemouth signings, and I really like some of them actually. I really like the signing of Traore. Kerkez from the Eredivisie is actually going to be really good. I think he's a great signing. I think Favare is a really good signing from Lyon, and I really like Justin Kluivert from AS Roma. These are some pretty good signings here. I really like them, and I think AFC Bournemouth are going to do a lot better this season. I have them at 14th. I think they're going to have a really good season. I like their new signings, and I think they're headed in the right direction. Moving on now to 13th, our last team in the lower to mid-table category. This might surprise some of you guys at how high I put them, but I've decided to go with Nottingham Forest. It might surprise you that I have them over teams like West Ham or even Everton or Bournemouth, but I really like what they're doing at Nottingham Forest. I think Steve Cooper's a good manager, and they ended the season very strong last year, and I'm not mistaken on this one. They actually did finish with 8 points in their last 4 games, which is very impressive for them. And taking a look at their signings here, they haven't done a whole lot, but I think that's a good thing for them. They just brought in a bunch of new players last season, so you need to give those players time to develop, time to learn to play with each other and build chemistry. So I don't think you need to do too much. They did bring in Matt Turner, who I'm a big fan of. I think he's a really underrated goalkeeper. They brought in Anthony Elanga, who I think is going to pair great with Brennan Johnson. They also brought in Chris Wood as well, who honestly I'm not a huge fan of, but it's whatever. And taking a look at the players they've sold, all they've lost really is Sam Surridge. So you're gaining more than you're losing, and you're giving your players that you bought last year, your young guys, time to develop and learn to play with each other. So I think they're just going to get better this season. That's why I have them finishing at 13th. I think Nottingham Forest might surprise a lot of people. And now moving on to 12th place, I have Crystal Palace just because they're Crystal Palace. You know, they're just always going to be that mid-table team. They're always there. They're never going to do any better. They're never going to do any worse, really. They're just a mid-table team. And I don't know. Part of me is kind of thinking they're going to struggle this year, but at the same time, I don't know. They are losing quite a bit. They're losing Wilfried Zaha. It looks like they might lose Elise, and they really haven't done anything to replace him. They brought in this kid from the Brazilian Serie A, but that's really about it. I'm just not sure how Crystal Palace are going to do this year, but you know, they're going to figure out a way to finish 12th, just like they always do. I know they will. And now moving on to 11th place here, I have Fulham. And Fulham, it was their first season back in the Premier League. And as you guys can see here, they finished 10th, and which is very impressive for them. It was extremely impressive. I mean, finishing in the top half your first year in the Prem is insanely impressive. So hats off to them. And I think they're going to have another good season this year, but I just don't see them improving. Taking a look at their signings here, they did bring in Calvin Bassey, who I really, really rate from Ajax. I think he's going to be great for them, but that's really all they've done. They haven't really done a whole lot, and I think they're just going to stay kind of like they were last year, and that's why I have them at 11th. Now moving on to 10th place, I have decided to go with Brentford. I think Brentford is a very good club. They're ran very well, and they're just a solid all-around team. They're managed well, they play well, and they're just a slept-on team. A lot of people sleep on Brentford. Don't sleep on Brentford, man. Ivan Toney is going to be gone until December, which, yeah, it sucks, but I think they will still do fine, honestly. And taking a look at Brentford's signings here, they brought in this kid from Freiburg. I know him, but I do not know how to say his name. They spent 25 million euros on him. I think he's going to be great for them. They also brought in Nathan Collins from Wolves. They spent like 27 million euros on them. So two pretty big signings there, spending 52 million right there just with those two players. You know, they're investing. They aren't really losing a whole lot. So, yeah, I definitely think Brentford are going to have another good season this year. 10th place isn't bad. You guys might see it as like they finished 9th last year. Why do you have them dropping down? It's not that I see them getting worse. It's just that I think they really overperformed last season, and I'm just not sure they're going to be able to maintain that again. Next up at the number 9 spot, I've decided to go with Brighton and Hove Albion. Brighton are a really good team, man. Brighton fans might be mad at me for this one, for putting them so low, but here's the thing, man. Here's the thing. The reason why I have Brighton at 9th, you know, you're losing your two best players. You know, you're losing Alexis McAllister. You're losing Caicedo. Robert Sanchez is gone. I mean, you're just losing so much. But the thing about Brighton is they just always bring players in to replace these guys that they sell, and they're so well at developing them. They're just going to find replacements, and they're still going to be good. And that's why I have them still at 9th, even after losing some of your best players. I still think Brighton are going to be pretty good next season. I just don't think that they'll be able to get any more than 9th, because I don't think they're at the quality at the rest of these 8 clubs here, and they're also going to have to deal with the Europa League. So that is why I have Brighton finishing 9th. Moving on now to our last team in the higher to mid-table category. For 8th place, the last team to finish outside of Europe, I have gone with Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham Hotspur had a shocking season last season, man. They finished 8th. The defense was terrible. It was a really rough season for them. And again, I kind of expect more of the same. Taking a look at their signings here, they didn't really do a whole lot to improve the defense. They did bring in Pedro Porro, but he was on loan last year. They brought in Mickey van de Veen from Wolfsburg, who's a solid signing, but I just think they need more than that, man. I really do. That defense is leaky. They did bring in James Maddison as well from Leicester, who's a really good signing. I rate him a lot. They brought back Dejan Kulusevski on a permanent deal. So you can see they're investing, they're trying, but honestly, man, the situation's just kind of a mess. They just lost their manager, Harry Kane. That situation's kind of weird. He might be off to Bayern. Is he staying? Is he leaving? I don't really know. So yeah, man, for those reasons, that is why I have Spurs finishing outside of Europe again this season. Moving on now to our first European spot. It's not the most prestigious of competitions, but the European Conference League. And for that, I think I'm going to have Newcastle United finishing 7th. They did finish 4th place last year, but honestly, man, I think they overperformed a little bit. And I don't think they're really going to get a whole lot worse this year, but I just am not sure they're going to be able to maintain that performance when you're going to be playing in the Champions League as well. You got to think about it. They're going to be in the Champions League this year too. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. They did bring in some pretty good signings. They brought in Sandro Tonali from AC Milan. I really like that one a lot. I like Harvey Barnes from Leicester. That's another good signing. Livramento from Southampton. He's only 20 years old. I do think they overpaid for him a bit, but you guys can see here, they're investing, they're getting better, and I think they're going to continue to do that. And just because I have them dropping down a little bit this year doesn't mean I think they're going in the wrong direction. I think they're going in the right direction, and the future is very, very bright for Newcastle. I just think dealing with the Champions League this year is going to impact them a little bit. Moving on now to our first Europa League spot, 6th place, I have decided to go with Aston Villa. And Aston Villa were struggling pretty bad at the start of last season, but Unai Emery came in and changed shit around, and they ended up finishing 7th. Aston Villa ended the season really, really well. They looked really, really strong, man. And to go out and this summer transfer window and add players like Moussa Diaby, Pau Torres, and Yuri Tielemans, Aston Villa are going to be a problem this season, and I have them finishing 6th. I think they're going to be really, really scary. Look out for Aston Villa next season. They're going to be fun to watch. And now, 5th place, our last team outside of the Champions League. We got some big clubs here, but I have decided to go with my favorite club, Chelsea. I think we will be finishing 5th this season. You guys all know Chelsea had an absolute shocker last season. We finished 12th. It was really, really depressing. It was so disappointing, man. But I think we're going to bounce back this year. Poch is in now. We had a huge clear out. The club was a bit of a mess last year, so we cleared out all of these players. We brought in Christopher Nkunku to help that attack because our attack was horrific last year. We brought in Axel Diassi to replace Fofana because of that injury. I forgot to mention Nkunku is going to be out until December, but that's okay though because we have Nicholas Jackson, who we brought in from Villarreal, and he has been killing it in the preseason. We also brought in Robert Sanchez from Brighton, and it looks like Kepa is going to be off to Bayern. So, yeah, man, I like what we're doing here. I think Chelsea's headed in the right direction, but I think it's going to take time. So I think 5th is going to be a very fair place for us. And the reason why I have us finishing 5th is because we're going to be able to solely focus on the Premier League this season. Last year we had to deal with the Champions League. This year we can just go in and focus on the Premier League. And I think Poch is going to be able to organize this shit here because last year, man, it was just an unorganized mess, and that's why we did so poorly. But now I feel like it's changing a little bit. It's definitely looking a little bit better. Moving on now to the Champions League. At 4th place, I have decided to go with Manchester United. They had a really good season last year under Ten Hag. It started off really bad, but he turned that shit around real quick. Manchester United ended up finishing 3rd and had a phenomenal defense. And yeah, they had a really impressive season last year. And this summer, they went out and picked up Rasmus Højlund was their big signing for 75 million euros. They picked him up from Atalanta. He has a ton of potential, but I just don't think he's ready to be a top guy yet. Last year, he only had 9 goals in the Serie A. I just don't think he was worth that hefty price tag they paid for him. And he also has a knee injury that's supposedly worse than they thought. So looks like he's going to miss some time. Mason Mount, they picked up from Chelsea, who I think is a decent signing for them. I actually like Mason Mount. He gets a lot of hate from Chelsea fans, but I think it's pretty unwarranted, honestly. He's a solid player. He just never really got a chance last year at Chelsea because just the whole shit was a mess. It was fucked up, man. Next up, Andre Onana. They brought him in from Inter. I think this is a big upgrade over David De Gea. Yeah, he's good on the ball. He's a good shot stopper. The only thing is he does make some silly mistakes sometimes. So that could end up costing him, but David De Gea is the king of silly mistakes. So I definitely think that is a big upgrade there. And taking a look at their departures here, all they've really lost is Anthony Elanga, who was just a bench piece for them. So United looking good, but I just don't see them getting any better this season. I don't think Rasmus Højlund is going to do much this year. And yeah, in my opinion, they just haven't really done enough to take that next step. That is why I have them finishing in 4th place. But still, a very good season and a Champions League spot for Manchester United. At number 3rd, I have decided to go with Liverpool. Last year, Liverpool had a very disappointing season, finishing what was it? Yeah, they finished 5th. They didn't get Champions League. It was a rough season last year for Liverpool. It was so bad that Mo Salah actually had to go on Instagram and type a whole paragraph of an apology to the Liverpool fans. It was an embarrassing season for them last year. And this squad just has so much talent. They really should be so much better than they should. Jurgen Klopp's a good manager. I think they'll have a bounce back year. I really do. Taking a look at their signings here, they brought in Alexis McAllister from Brighton. I think that's an amazing signing for them. They also brought in Szoboszlai from Leipzig for $70 million. That was a huge signing. So you're getting 2 huge attacking midfielders here, but they still are missing a DM. Their defense needs patched up as well. So that is why I have them at 3rd. But next year, I think they could be challenging for that title. They just have a few holes that need patched up yet. And now moving on to 2nd and 1st place. Arsenal and Man City. I have another 2-horse title race this year. Let's go ahead and take a look at the table last year. Arsenal led the league for like 200 days, I believe. I believe it was a record, longest days at the top of the table without winning the league. It was a very disappointing end to the season for Arsenal last year. As you guys can see, they finished 5 points behind City. But at the end of the day, it was a very successful season for Arsenal last year. They completely overperformed, and this offseason, they went out and picked up Declan Rice, one of the best CDMs in the world. They picked up Kai Havertz, who I'm not sure why they did that, but they did it. And they also picked up Jurrien Timber from Ajax, who's going to be good for them as well. So they're really improving the defense. The whole team looks good, man. The depth looks good. I really think Arsenal are going to do really well this year, but I think Manchester City are going to do even better, and that is why I have Manchester City winning the Premier League for the 4th time in a row. I have Manchester City finishing 1st. I have Arsenal finishing 2nd. Taking a look at Manchester City's signings here, you can see they brought in Josko Gvardiol, one of the best young center backs in the world. Let me rephrase that. The best young center back in the world. He's phenomenal. They also brought in Mateo Kovacic from Chelsea. He's a decent piece. But they have been losing a few players. They lost Riyad Mahrez and Ilkay Gundogan. That kind of hurts. And there's also some rumors about Bernardo Silva and Kyle Walker leaving. But Man City have offered contract extensions to them. So it looks like they'll be staying, but it's really not for certain yet. But honestly, I don't think it matters. City just have quality all around. Pep Guardiola is the greatest manager of all time, and I think City are going to win their 4th straight Premier League title. I think they're just too dominant. You can't stop them, man. So that's going to be it, boys. That is my predictions for the 2023-2024 Premier League season. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments your thoughts. You guys can roast me on my ball knowledge if you want. Just let me know what you guys think. I'm excited to hear your guys' thoughts on this one. This was I put a lot of thought into putting this together, and I'm really happy with the way this looks. I think this is going to look pretty similar to the end of the season table. I really do. But we will have to revisit it at the end of the season. And honestly, man, it's probably going to be all fucked up. But, we'll just have to see. But yeah, man, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. If you want, go ahead and help me out. Drop a like and drop a sub. I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, that is it for this one. Peace.
Yo, you guys probably don't recognize me. I'm the person that edited this video because Lib can't figure out how to splice audio and video together. I also made the thumbnail for this video and the thumbnails for his franchise mode videos with Everton and Forrest. I also have a channel of my own. I make MLB The Show content, which is baseball, and then when Madden comes out, I will be making Madden content with Lib, as well as FIFA content when that comes out with him. So I would appreciate a follow, a subscribe, share my channel with your friends. Also, like my videos. Go watch them. They're good. Thank you. Enjoy his video.